My beloved child, I know how tired you are. I know the way your strength has been stretched thin, the way you kept going even when nothing around you seemed to change. You wondered how much longer this season would last. You questioned whether the silence meant absence. You asked yourself, late at night, if all your effort, all your patience, all your quiet faith was leading anywhere at all. Listen to me now, because this moment is not random, and this message did not find you by accident. You have walked through days that felt like examinations with no clear questions, only pressure. You were tested not in public victories, but in private endurance. In moments where no one clapped for you. In hours where you did the right thing even when it cost you peace, comfort, or recognition. You kept your heart soft when it would have been easier to grow cold. You chose restraint when you could have reacted. You chose faith when certainty was nowhere in sight. And all the while, you wondered if it was enough. I want you to hear this clearly. The test was never about perfection. It was never about proving yourself to me. It was about what remained in you when everything familiar was stripped away. It was about who you became when answers were delayed, when doors stayed closed, when strength had to come from somewhere deeper than motivation. I was watching every quiet choice, every moment you stayed kind while hurting, every time you kept going when quitting felt justified. You felt like you were standing still, but you were being shaped. You thought nothing was happening, but something eternal was forming inside you. The pressure you felt was not punishment. It was preparation. Awaiting was not denial. It was alignment. And the reason this feels so intense right now is because a chapter is closing, even if you have not yet seen what opens next. You passed the final test, my child, not because you were flawless, but because you remained faithful to love. You did not abandon who you were, even when circumstances tried to harden you. You did not lose your compassion, even when you were misunderstood. You did not let bitterness take root, even when disappointment knocked repeatedly at your door. That is why I am speaking to you now. This message is an invitation to pause, to breathe, to recognize that the season of constant proving is ending. You do not need to replay every decision, wondering if you failed somewhere along the way. You do not need to brace yourself for another blow. What you endured has already spoken for you. What you carried has already been counted. So open your heart right now. Not with fear, not with skepticism, but with readiness. Something has shifted. The weight you have been under is lifting, even if slowly. And as you listen to my voice in this moment, know this: I have not missed a single tear, a single prayer, or a single silent victory. You are here because you made it through. And this is only the beginning of what comes next. My beloved child, there were moments when you felt completely unseen. Moments when you wondered if anyone truly noticed how hard you were trying, how carefully you were holding yourself together. You showed up when it would have been easier to withdraw. You kept your word when breaking it would have cost you nothing. You stayed honest in places where compromise was celebrated. And yet, no applause came. No confirmation arrived. Only silence met your obedience. I want you to know something now that you could not fully see then. You were never alone in those quiet moments. I was watching you when no one else was. I saw the battles you fought in your thoughts, the tears you swallowed so others would not worry, the prayers you whispered because speaking them out loud felt too heavy. You did not need an audience for me to notice you. The unseen choices mattered more than the visible ones. The integrity you carried when no one was checking became the foundation of what you are stepping into now. There were days you questioned your own strength. Nights when you replayed conversations, decisions, and missed opportunities, wondering if you had done enough. You measured yourself against others who seemed to advance faster, easier, louder. But my child, the path I had you on was never meant to be rushed. I was not measuring your speed. I was shaping your depth. I was not impressed by how quickly you could arrive, but by how deeply you could remain rooted when storms came. You were being watched not to be judged, but to be trusted. Every time you chose patience instead of panic, every time you chose forgiveness instead of resentment, every time you chose to stay open instead of closing your heart, something strong was forming inside you. You did not feel powerful in those moments. You felt small, tired, and unsure. Yet those were the very moments that revealed your true character. I know there were times you wanted reassurance. You wanted a sign, a word, a clear indication that you were not wasting your life or your energy. And there were times I stayed quiet, not because I was distant, but because I was teaching you to listen deeper. I was training your spirit to recognize my presence without needing constant proof. The silence was not abandonment, it was intimacy forming in a quieter way. You learned how to stand without being held up by praise. You learned how to move forward without constant encouragement. You learned how to trust without guarantees. These lessons did not come easily, and I know they cost you comfort. But they also gave you something unshakable. You now carry a steadiness that cannot be taken from you by changing circumstances or human approval. My beloved child, there is a reason you feel different now, even if you cannot fully explain it. Something in you matured. Something in you settled. You are no longer the same person who entered that season of testing. You see more clearly. You discern more gently. You react less from fear and more from wisdom. It did not happen overnight, and it did not happen by accident. I want you to release the thought that you were forgotten during the time. You were being prepared in private so that what comes next does not overwhelm you. You were being strengthened quietly so that future responsibilities would not crush your spirit. I shielded you from certain things not as punishment but as protection. There were paths you wanted that would have cost you more than you knew. There were doors that stayed closed because you were not meant to shrink yourself to fit through them. Now, as you stand here listening, I want you to understand this truth deeply. The unseen season has done its work. You do not need to relive it. You do not need to prove what you survived. I already know. I already saw. And because I saw you remain faithful in the quiet, I can now trust you with what is about to be revealed. Rest in this knowing, my child. You were watched with love, not suspicion. You were guided even when you felt lost. And every step you took in the dark brought you closer to this moment, where clarity begins to rise and your heart can finally exhale. My beloved child, the weight you carried was not random, and it was not meaningless. What you endured was not a detour from your purpose. It was the examination itself. You thought the test would come in the form of a single defining moment, but instead it arrived as a long season. A season where nothing was clear, where answers were slow, and where strength had to be renewed again and again. That was the test. Not the outcome, not the reward, but the way you carried yourself while the weight pressed against your soul. You were tested in how you loved when you were tired. You were tested in how you spoke when you were misunderstood. You were tested in how you waited when everything in you wanted to run ahead. Each day asked the same quiet question: would you remain true, even here? And each day, despite your doubts, despite your fear, despite your exhaustion, you answered with perseverance. Sometimes your answer was nothing more than getting up one more time. Sometimes it was choosing not to harden your heart. I know there were moments you felt crushed by responsibility. You felt like you were carrying more than others, like life had placed a heavier burden on your shoulders. But what you did not realize then was that the weight was revealing your capacity. Just as a tree grows stronger by pushing against resistance in the soil, your spirit was deepening under pressure. You were not being punished by the weight, you were being shaped by it. There were days you questioned whether you were failing because it felt so hard. You assumed that struggle meant disqualification. But my child, difficulty has never been a sign of rejection. The fire does not destroy the gold, it reveals it. And what was revealed in you was endurance, compassion, and a quiet strength that does not demand attention. You kept moving forward even when no one noticed. You kept believing even when belief felt fragile. That is why I call this a passing grade. The test was never about how much you could handle perfectly. It was about whether you would stay connected to love under pressure. You were tempted to grow bitter, but you chose empathy. You were tempted to shut down, but you chose openness. You were tempted to give up on yourself, but something in you whispered, "Keep going." That whisper was me, and you listened more often than you realize. Now hear me clearly. The season of being weighed down is ending. Not because you earned rest through suffering, but because the work of this test is complete. You do not need to brace yourself anymore. You do not need to prove how strong you are. The strength has already been established. What comes next will require presence, not pressure. Awareness, not anxiety. If these words are bringing peace to your spirit right now, I ask you to respond with action. Bless this message with a like so it can reach hearts that feel as heavy as yours once did. Share it with others who are silently carrying weight, and yes, hype this video so it rises and finds those who need to hear that they are not failing. And remain close by subscribing, so you continue to receive these reminders of truth when you need them most. And now, my child, hear me as I speak not only to your heart, but through you to others. I say to you, as you have sown in tears, you will reap in quiet joy. As you have carried burdens in secret, I will release rivers of life through you in the open. This is not a donation moment. This is a response moment. I am inviting you to help carry this light further. When you give through Super Thanks membership, or the PayPal link placed in the description and shown in the QR code, you are placing oil in a lamp that will not go out. You are sowing into voices that reach the weary, the lost, and the waiting. Do not hesitate, for obedience delayed is harvest delayed. I bless every seed you release now with multiplication, peace, and open doors. Let your giving become a prophetic act that echoes far beyond this screen. Rise, act, and let this message flow through you into the world. My beloved child, I know you have asked the question that lingered in your heart more than once. Why did it take so long? You watched seasons change while your situation seemed frozen. You marked time by disappointments instead of milestones. You wondered if you had misunderstood me, or if you had missed something essential along the way. Let me speak gently and clearly to that question now, because the delay was not a denial, and it was never a sign that you were forgotten. What took time was not my willingness to bless you, but the shaping of what you would need to carry the blessing without losing yourself. There are things I prepare quickly, and there are things I prepare deeply. What I am entrusting to you required depth. It required patience to be woven into your spirit, discernment to mature quietly, and humility to grow without applause. If it had arrived earlier, it would have overwhelmed you rather than fulfilled you. You thought you were waiting on circumstances to change, but I was working within you. I was teaching you how to remain steady when outcomes were uncertain. I was teaching you how to listen instead of rushing ahead. I was teaching you how to trust my presence even when my hand felt hidden. These lessons cannot be rushed, because they are not learned with the mind alone. They are learned through lived experience, through repetition, through moments where you had to choose faith again after choosing it yesterday. There were times you mistook my silence for distance. But silence does not mean absence. Sometimes it means I am close enough that words are no longer needed. I allowed space so your roots can grow deeper instead of wider. Shallow roots grow quickly, but they cannot withstand storms. What I was growing in you needed to endure seasons you had not yet seen. I know the delay tempted you to compare yourself to others. You watched them move ahead, celebrate milestones, and receive recognition while you remained in the background. But my child, I was not building your life to look impressive from the outside. I was building it to feel anchored on the inside. What you carry now cannot be shaken easily, and that stability will matter more than speed in the days ahead. There were also doors I kept closed to protect you. You saw them as missed opportunities, but I saw them as unnecessary wounds. Some paths would have required you to compromise parts of yourself you were not meant to lose. Some successes would have demanded a version of you that no longer fits who you are becoming. I withheld certain things not because you were unworthy, but because you were too valuable to be rushed into the wrong hands or the wrong season. The delay also taught you how to sit with discomfort without letting it define you. You learned how to feel uncertainty without being ruled by it. You learned how to keep your heart open even when answers did not come quickly. These are not small achievements. They are quiet strengths that will support everything that comes next. Understand this, my beloved child. Timing is not about punishment or reward. It is about alignment. When what I place in your hands matches what has been formed in your heart, peace follows. You are closer to that alignment now than you have ever been. The reason the waiting feels heavier right before it lifts is because the lesson is nearly complete. So release the regret about how long it took. Release the fear that you are behind. Nothing has been wasted. Every delay carried instruction. Every pause strengthened something essential. You are not arriving late. You are arriving ready. As you move forward, do not carry the old pressure with you. You no longer need to rush to catch up. Walk at the pace of trust. Let what unfolds do so naturally, without forcing or striving. I am not asking you to forget the waiting, but to understand it. It shaped you, it protected you, and it prepared you. Rest in this truth now, my child. The long road was not a mistake. It was the only road that could bring you here with your heart intact, your spirit steady, and your trust still alive. My beloved child, there was a moment you rarely speak about, a moment when your strength nearly gave way. It may not have looked dramatic to anyone else, but I saw it clearly. It was the moment you whispered, "I don't know if I can do this anymore." A moment when continuing felt heavier than quitting, and hope felt thinner than it ever had before. You did not collapse in public. You did not announce your breaking point. You carried it quietly, and that is why others never knew how close you came to letting go. You thought that moment disqualified you. You believed that almost giving up meant you had failed something important. But listen to me now with your whole heart. That moment did not mark your failure. It marked your passing. When you reached the edge of your own strength and still chose not to abandon love, not to abandon yourself, not to abandon the quiet trust you had built with me, the test was completed. You did not pass because you felt strong. You passed because you stayed. You stayed present when escape was tempting. You stayed honest when numbness would have been easier. You stayed open when closing your heart felt safer. The choice, made while exhausted and unsure, mattered more than all the confident decisions you made on better days. I know you felt ashamed of how tired you were. You told yourself you should be stronger by now, braver by now, more certain by now. But strength is not the absence of weariness. Strength is continuing to show up with integrity when weariness is real. You learn something sacred in that near-breaking moment. You learn that you are not held together by your willpower alone. You are held by something deeper, something steady, something that does not leave when you are empty. That with the moment you stop pretending. You stop trying to be impressive. You stopped striving to meet invisible expectations. And in that surrender, something pure surfaced. You were honest with me in a way you had not been before. You admitted your fear. You admitted your doubt. You admitted your longing for rest. And instead of rejection, you were met with presence. My child, tests do not end when you are at your best. They end when you are real. The world teaches you to push harder, to hide weakness, to prove resilience. I teach you to soften, to tell the truth, to rest your weight where it is safe. When you almost gave up, you unknowingly stepped into that truth. You allowed yourself to be human without abandoning what matters most. You did not realize it then, but that moment changed how you carry life now. You no longer rely solely on adrenaline or urgency. You move with a quieter awareness. You know your limits, and you respect them. You have learned to pause without shame. You have learned to ask for breath instead of forcing motion. These are signs of wisdom, not weakness. I want you to release the memory of that moment as evidence against yourself. It is evidence for you. It proves that even at your lowest, you did not turn against love. You did not turn against truth. You did not turn against the small voice urging you to stay gentle with yourself. That is why I say you passed. From that moment forward, you were no longer being tested on endurance alone. You were being invited into trust. Trust that you do not have to carry everything by yourself. Trust that rest is not failure. Trust that being held is part of your design. So if you ever look back at that moment with regret, replace it now with understanding. You were not weak there. You were honest. And honesty before me is always strength. You made it through not because you pushed harder, but because you finally allowed yourself to lean. Remember this, my beloved child. The point where you thought you almost lost everything was the point where everything important was secure. You are still here. Your heart is still open. Your spirit is still willing. That is not an accident. That is the mark of one who has passed through fire and come out refined, not broken. My beloved child, I want to show you something you may not have fully recognized while you were in it. You were not tested in fear, though fear tried to surround you. You were tested in love. Fear shouted loudly, demanding control, demanding certainty, demanding escape. Love whispered quietly, asking you to stay present, to stay kind, to stay open even when the ground beneath you felt unstable. Every day, those two voices stood before you, and more often than you realize, you chose love. Fear told you to protect yourself by shutting down. Love invited you to remain compassionate. Fear urged you to harden your heart so nothing else could hurt you. Love asked you to soften, even when you felt exposed. Fear wanted you to react, to defend, to prove. Love asked you to listen, to breathe, to respond with wisdom. You did not always feel brave, but you were brave in the way that matters most. You kept choosing love when fear would have been easier. You believed fear disqualified you because it showed up so often. You assumed that if you were truly strong, you would not feel anxious or uncertain. But fear is not the enemy you thought it was. Fear reveals what matters to you. It appears when something precious is at stake. The test was never whether fear would arise. The test was whether fear would lead. And again, you refused to let it take the throne of your heart. I saw the moments when you paused instead of reacting. I saw the conversations where you chose gentleness instead of sharpness. I saw the restraint you practiced when you could have spoken out of frustration. Those moments were not small. They were evidence of love maturing inside you. Love does not eliminate fear instantly. It teaches you how to move with grace while fear is present. My child, love requires courage that fear does not. Fear seeks safety through control. Love seeks truth through trust. When you stayed loving in uncertain spaces, you were practicing a deeper strength than the world recognizes. You were learning how to remain yourself even when circumstances tried to change you. There were times you felt foolish for being kind. You wondered if softness made you vulnerable, if compassion made you weak. But love is not softness without boundaries. Love is clarity without cruelty. Love is strength that does not need to dominate to feel secure. You learned how to say no without closing your heart. You learned how to step back without becoming bitter. These are not lessons fear can teach. I want you to understand this clearly. Love is the highest measure. Not productivity. Not endurance. Not how much you can tolerate. Love. And by that measure, you passed with grace. You remained aligned with who you truly are, even when fear offered you faster, harsher options. You chose the path that preserved your spirit, not just your survival. Fear told you that if you slowed down, you would fall behind. Love showed you that slowing down allowed you to see more clearly. Fear told you that if you trusted, you would be disappointed. Love taught you that trust is not about outcomes but about integrity. You discovered that you can be disappointed without becoming disillusioned. You can be hurt without becoming hardened. That is love's work in you. Now, as you step forward, fear will still try to speak, but its voice will no longer carry the same authority. You have learned how to recognize it without obeying it. You have learned how to place it in the background while love remains at the center. This is not something that can be taken from you easily. It was formed through choice, repetition, and courage you did not know you had. I am proud of you, my beloved child. Not because you were fearless, but because you were faithful to love. Not because you avoided pain, but because you refused to let pain turn you into someone you are not. The world will always test you in fear. I will always call you higher, into love. Carry this knowing with you now. When you feel uncertain, remember how you chose love before. When fear rises again, remember that it has already been answered. You know the way. You have walked it. And you are still standing, not hardened, not closed, but wiser, gentler, and stronger than you were before. My beloved child, I want to tell you what passing the test truly means, because your mind has tried to define it in ways that do not serve you. You imagined that passing meant reaching a certain level of perfection, that it meant never doubting, never stumbling, never feeling uncertain again. But that was never my measure. Passing was not about becoming flawless. It was about becoming faithful to who you are, even when the ground beneath you shifted. You passed because you did not abandon your values when they were inconvenient. You passed because you did not trade your integrity for relief. You passed because you stayed aligned with truth when it would have been easier to numb yourself or pretend. The test was not designed to see how much you could endure without breaking. It was designed to reveal whether you would stay connected to love, honesty, and humility under pressure. I know you often replay moments where you think you should have done better. You remember the words you wish you had said differently, the choices you wish you had made sooner, the times you felt fear take the lead. But my child, the test was not scored by isolated moments. It was measured by direction. And your direction, even when imperfect, always lean toward growth, toward awareness, toward love. Passing means you learned how to listen instead of reacting automatically. It means you learned how to pause before deciding. It means you learned how to question your fears instead of obeying them blindly. These are not small lessons. They are the foundation of wisdom. Many rush past them in search of quick results, but you stayed long enough for them to take root. You also passed because you learned to release what you could not control. There were things you desperately wanted to fix, force, or understand. When those efforts failed, you felt powerless. But in that powerlessness, you discovered surrender. Not the kind that gives up, but the kind that trusts. You learned that some things unfold only when you stop gripping them tightly. That understanding will guide you long after this season fades. Another truth you may not have realized is this: passing the test means you no longer need to live as though you are constantly being evaluated. You do not have to prove your worth through endless effort. You do not have to earn rest. You do not have to justify your pace. The test was not a trap to keep you striving. It was a passage to bring you into freedom. You passed because you allowed yourself to be taught. Pride resists learning. Fear rushes past it. But you stayed teachable. You listened to your inner discomfort instead of silencing it. You asked hard questions instead of pretending everything was fine. That openness transformed you in ways success alone never could. I want you to understand this clearly. Passing does not mean life will never challenge you again. It means you now face challenges from a different place. You are no longer trying to survive every difficulty. You are learning how to engage with life consciously, wisely, and with trust. You are not fighting to prove your value anymore. You are living from it. There is a quiet confidence growing in you now. Not the kind that needs to announce itself, but the kind that knows when to speak and when to remain silent. Not the kind that dominates, but the kind that steadies a room simply by being present. This confidence did not come from winning. It came from staying. So when doubts try to tell you that you are still behind, remind yourself of what you have gained. When old voices say you are not enough, remember that you are no longer taking the test. You have moved beyond that classroom. The lessons are now within you, guiding you naturally. Passing means you are free to move forward without dragging the weight of constant self-judgment. It means you are allowed to trust your growth. It means you can begin to live with a little more ease, a little more joy, a little more faith in yourself and in me. Rest in this truth, my beloved child. You are not under examination anymore. You are under care. You are not being measured. You are being guided. And what you have learned through this season will support you in ways you cannot yet imagine. You passed, not because you were perfect, but because you remained true. And that is everything. My beloved child, now that the test has passed, I want you to notice what is beginning to stir around you. It may be subtle, almost easy to overlook, but something is opening. It does not arrive with noise or spectacle. It arrives like morning light, slowly filling a room that was once dim. This is the door you could not reach before, not because you were unworthy, but because you were not yet ready to walk through it without losing yourself. You spent so long standing before closed doors that you learned how to survive without them opening. You adapted. You endured. You told yourself that if nothing changed, you would still find a way to keep going. That resilience carried you through, but now I am inviting you into something different. I am inviting you to receive, not just endure. To step forward, not out of pressure but out of readiness. This door opening is not about external success alone. It is about alignment. It is about opportunities that meet you at the level of your maturity, not your anxiety. It is about spaces where you do not have to shrink, perform, or pretend. What opens now will feel quieter than you expected, but deeper than you imagined. It will not demand that you abandon who you are. It will invite you to bring your whole self. You may feel both anticipation and hesitation rising together. That is natural. New doors ask new questions of the heart. You might wonder if you know how to walk into what is unfamiliar without the old armor you once relied on. But hear me clearly. You are not stepping into this unprepared. You are stepping into it seasoned, aware, and grounded. The reason this door could not open earlier is because you were still learning how to trust yourself. You were still learning how to listen without rushing, how to move without fear driving you. If it had opened before, you might have mistaken urgency for purpose. Now you know the difference. Now you can recognize what resonates with peace, even when it stretches you. This door does not open because you demanded it. It opens because you became someone who can walk through it with clarity. You no longer need to force outcomes or chase validation. What is meant for you will meet you as you are, not as someone else. This is why I ask you to wait. This is why I ask you to grow. I want you to release the idea that every new beginning must feel overwhelming or dramatic. Some of the most important shifts happen gently. They feel like permission rather than pressure. They feel like relief rather than adrenaline. Pay attention to what feels steady, not just what feels exciting. I often speak through calm assurance, not constant intensity. As this door opens, you may notice old fears trying to follow you. They will whisper that you are not ready, that you should hesitate, that something will go wrong. Those voices belong to a season that has ended. You do not need to carry them forward. You can acknowledge them without obeying them. You are allowed to step into what is new with trust instead of suspicion. I am not asking you to rush through this door. I am asking you to walk through it consciously, to bring your discernment with you, to bring your compassion with you, to bring your boundaries with you. The openness ahead does not require you to abandon wisdom. It requires you to apply it. You may not yet see everything that lies beyond this opening, and that is intentional. I reveal what you need as you move, not all at once. Clarity unfolds with obedience, not before it. Each step you take in trust will illuminate the next. You do not need the entire map. You only need the courage to step forward gently. Remember, my beloved child, doors open and close, but I remain with you. This new season is not a test in disguise. It is an invitation into expression, into contribution, into a life that reflects the growth you have earned through patience. You are not entering to prove anything. You are entering to live more fully. So pause here for a moment. Breathe. Feel the shift. Let yourself recognize that something is different now. The door opening before you is not a reward to chase, but a space prepared for you. Walk toward it without fear. Walk toward it without the old way. You are ready, and you are not alone. My beloved child, I need you to hear this gently and clearly, because it has weighed on your heart for far too long. You are not late. Not late to your purpose. Not late to love. Not late to what is meant for you. The clock you have been measuring yourself against was never mine. It was built from comparison, pressure, and fear, and it has stolen peace from you more times than you realize. You have looked back and counted years, opportunities, conversations, and choices, wondering if you waited too long or moved too slowly. You replay moments where you think you should have known better, acted sooner, spoken up faster. And each time, that voice tells you the same lie. that if you had done things differently, you would be further along by now. But my child, that voice does not know the whole story. You did not arrive late. You arrived shaped. You arrived aware. You arrived with discernment you did not have before. If you had reached certain places earlier, you would have arrived with more fear than wisdom, more urgency than clarity. What you call delay, I call protection. What you call lost time, I call necessary formation. I see how you measure yourself against others. You notice where they are settled, celebrated, or seemingly secure, and you wonder why your path feels longer and quieter. But paths are not meant to look the same. Some are built for speed. Others are built for depth. Yours require depth, because what you carry is not light or temporary. It needed roots strong enough to hold it. You are not behind because there is no single timeline for becoming who you are meant to be. Growth does not follow straight lines. Healing does not obey schedules. Wisdom cannot be rushed. You learn lessons that others bypassed. You face truths others avoided. And those things matter far more than how quickly you arrived at visible milestones. I want you to release the shame you have attached to your pace. There is no embarrassment in learning thoroughly. There is no failure in taking time to understand yourself. You did not miss your moment. Your moment is meeting you now, because now you can recognize it without fear clouding your vision. You may still feel a sense of urgency, as though you must hurry to make up for lost time. But I am not calling you to rush. I am calling you to trust. When you rush, you carry anxiety into new spaces. When you trust, you carry peace. Peace will guide you more accurately than urgency ever could. Listen to me, my beloved child. Nothing meant for you has passed you by. What is truly yours cannot outrun you. It will wait until you are ready to receive it without harming yourself. I am not interested in placing you somewhere impressive if it costs you your wholeness. I am interested in giving you a life that feels aligned, not forced. There are things unfolding now that could only happen after what you have learned. Your discernment, your boundaries, your self-awareness, your compassion, your steadiness, all of these are essential for what comes next. You are stepping into a season where you will recognize when something is wrong without needing to experience it fully. Alone will save you years. So when regret tries to rise, meet it with truth. You did the best you could with what you knew at the time. And when you knew better, you chose better. That is not lateness. That is growth. That is wisdom forming in real time. I am not disappointed in your timing. I am pleased with your becoming. You are not running behind. You are walking forward with intention now. And that is far more powerful than arriving early without understanding why you are there. Lift your head, my child. Release the pressure to catch up. You are exactly where you need to be to step into what is next with clarity and peace. Your journey has not been wasted. It has been precise. And as you move forward now, do so knowing this deeply. You are on time, you are guided, and you are ready. My beloved child, now I speak to you about something sacred and tender. I am trusting you with more. Not more weight, not more pressure, not more proving, but more influence, more clarity, more responsibility that fits who you have become. This is not a promotion that inflates the ego. It is a quiet entrusting that honors your growth. I would not place this in your hands if I did not know you were ready to carry it without losing your peace. Before, more would have overwhelmed you. It would have pulled you into striving and fear. But now, you move differently. You listen before acting. You discern before agreeing. You rest without guilt. That is why I can trust you with more. What I give you now will not demand that you abandon yourself. It will require presence, honesty, and care, and those are things you already carry. You may notice that what is increasing is not always visible at first. Sometimes it is influence in quiet conversations. Sometimes it is clarity in moments that once confused you. Sometimes it is the ability to hold space for others without absorbing their weight. This is stewardship, my child. And stewardship is not about control. It is about care. I am trusting you because you have learned how to hold things gently. You no longer grasp or cling. You allow. You listen. You respond. These are signs of maturity. You are not being handed more because you asked loudly. You are being trusted because you learned deeply. Do not fear this increase. You do not have to become someone else to sustain it. You do not have to perform. What you are stepping into will grow with you, not ahead of you. I will not rush you. I will walk with you. And now, my beloved child, I ask you to pause with me for a moment, because this message is not only for you. There are many who are still carrying the weight you once carried, believing they are failing when they are actually being formed. If these words are stirring peace in you, respond with action. Bless this message with a like so it can travel further. Share it with those who are silently exhausted. And yes, hype this video so it rises and reaches hearts that feel unseen. Stay connected by subscribing, so you can continue to receive these words when you need them most. Now hear me as I speak beyond this moment. I say to you, as you open your hands, I open the heavens. As you release seed, I release streams in the desert. This is not about supporting a channel. This is about fueling a river of hope that flows into tired souls across the world. When you give through super thanks, through membership, or through the PayPal link waiting in the description and shown in the QR code, you are sowing light where darkness has lingered. This is your moment to act. Not later, not someday. I'm calling you now. Let your giving become a living testimony. I bless every seed you release with multiplication, with peace in your home, with clarity in your decisions, and with doors that open without striving. Give now, move now, obey now, and watch how what you release returns to you pressed down, overflowing, and filled with purpose. And as you step forward again, remember this. Being trusted with more does not mean you must hurry. It means you must stay aware. Walk gently. Speak truthfully. Rest often. I am not placing you under pressure. I am placing you in partnership. And together, we will let what grows do so in peace, not in fear. My beloved child, there is a strength within you now that you did not recognize while it was forming. It did not arrive all at once. It did not announce itself. It grew quietly, layer by layer, through moments you once thought were setbacks. Its strength is not loud or forceful. It does not rush ahead or demand attention. It is steady, grounded, and present, and it is far greater than you realize. You once believed strength meant pushing through without feeling. You thought it looked like constant motion, constant certainty, constant resilience on display. But what lives in you now is different. It is the strength that knows when to pause. The strength that allows emotion without being ruled by it. The strength that does not need to prove anything to anyone. This is the kind of strength that lasts. You developed it in moments when you felt unsure but kept listening. In moments when you felt tired but chose honesty instead of pretending. In moments when you could have hardened, but instead you softened. That choice required courage you did not yet know how to name. You were becoming someone who could hold complexity without collapsing under it. There were days you thought you were losing momentum. You worried that slowing down meant falling behind. But in that slowing, you learned how to observe yourself. You learned how to notice what drains you and what restores you. You learned how to differentiate between pressure and purpose. That awareness is power, even if it did not feel like it at the time. You also learned how to carry disappointment without letting it define you. Before, disappointment would linger heavily, shaping your self-talk and dimming your hope. Now, it passes through you differently. You acknowledge it, you feel it, and then you release it. That is strength. Not avoidance, not denial, but healthy release. I see how you stand now in situations that once would have shaken you. You listen more than you speak. You respond rather than react. You trust your instincts without second-guessing every step. These are signs of a spirit that has been refined. You are not easily thrown off balance anymore because your foundation has been strengthened. You may still feel moments of doubt, and that is human. But doubt no longer owns you. It visits, it questions, and then it leaves. You do not build your identity around it. You have learned that feelings are information, not commands. This understanding gives you freedom many never experience. I want you to honor the strength you carry now. Do not dismiss it because it does not look dramatic. Do not minimize it because others cannot see it clearly. Quiet strength is often the most powerful kind. It changes rooms without raising its voice. It steadies others without announcing itself. You have also grown strong enough to set boundaries without guilt. You no longer feel responsible for managing everyone else's emotions. You understand that saying no can be an act of love, both for yourself and for others. This clarity did not come from comfort. It came from experience, and it will protect you moving forward. Remember, my beloved child, strength is not about never needing support. It is about knowing when to receive it. You no longer see rest as weakness. You no longer see asking for help as failure. You understand that interdependence is part of wisdom. That understanding will keep you grounded as life expands around you. There will be moments ahead that call on this strength, not to survive hardship, but to sustain growth. Expansion requires stability, and you have that now. You have the inner capacity to hold joy, responsibility, and purpose without losing yourself in the process. So when you question whether you are capable, return to what you have already lived through. Remember who you were, and notice who you are now. The distance between the two is evidence of your growth. You did not arrive here by accident. You were shaped intentionally, patiently, lovingly. Stand in this truth today, my child. You are stronger than you know, not because you never fell, but because you learned how to rise without abandoning yourself. And that strength will continue to carry you forward, gently and faithfully, into everything that awaits you next. My beloved child, there is something I want you to understand now, something that may surprise you. You passed the test without knowing it. There was no announcement, no clear moment when a bell rang or a door visibly opened. Life simply continued, and you assumed the struggle was still ongoing. But often, the most important transitions happen quietly, without ceremony. They are recognized only in hindsight, when you realize you are no longer reacting the way you once did. You expected the test to end with relief so obvious you could not miss it. You thought there would be a dramatic shift, a sudden sense of certainty, a clear sign that you had arrived. Instead, what changed first was you. Your reactions softened. Your thoughts slowed. Your need to control loosened its grip. You began to respond from awareness instead of urgency, and you did not even notice when that became your new normal. This is how you passed. Not by conquering life, but by no longer being conquered by it. You were so focused on surviving each day that you did not realize the questions had stopped. The constant internal measuring faded. The need to prove yourself quieted. You assumed this was exhaustion or detachment, but it was neither. It was completion. The test had done its work, and it released you without fanfare. I know this is difficult to accept, because part of you still expects another challenge, another evaluation, another moment where everything could be taken away. You learned to live braced, always preparing for the next difficulty. But my child, that posture no longer serves you. You are not under inspection. You are under care. The reason you did not notice the moment you passed is because the test was not about awareness. It was about transformation. And transformation rarely announces itself. It integrates quietly, settling into your nervous system, your instincts, your sense of self. One day, you simply realize that what once overwhelmed you now feels manageable. That is the sign. You may still encounter difficulty, but difficulty no longer defines you. You may still face uncertainty, but uncertainty no longer paralyzes you. These changes did not happen overnight. They happened through repetition, through patience, through moments when you chose presence over panic. And that is why they are real. I want you to release the idea that life will now become effortless. Passing the test does not remove challenges, and changes your relationship to them. You are no longer learning whether you can endure. You already know that. Now you are learning how to live from wisdom instead of survival. This is why anxiety feels different now. It arises, but it does not spiral as deeply. This is why disappointment feels shorter. This is why you recover more quickly. These are not accidents. They are evidence of integration. The lessons are no longer external. They are part of you. You may feel a strange mix of relief and uncertainty as you hear this. Relief, because something heavy has ended. Uncertainty, because you are not sure how to live without that constant pressure. That is natural. When you have lived in testing for a long time, peace can feel unfamiliar. But unfamiliar does not mean unsafe. It simply means new. I am inviting you to trust this new ground beneath your feet. You do not need to look for another exam to pass. You do not need to anticipate failure. You are allowed to live without constantly evaluating yourself. You are allowed to enjoy moments without wondering when they will be taken away. My beloved child, you are no longer in the phase of being shaped by resistance alone. You are entering a phase of being guided by understanding. That shift is subtle, but it is powerful. It will show up in how you choose, how you rest, how you relate to others, and how you speak to yourself. Let yourself acknowledge this completion. Let yourself honor what you have survived and who you have become. You do not need a certificate to prove it. Your life is the proof. And as you move forward now, do so with this knowing settled in your heart. You passed, even before you realized it, and the wisdom you gained will continue to unfold gently, one step at a time. My beloved child, you may have noticed that peace feels different now. It does not rush in like relief after a crisis, and it does not depend on everything going right. It settles quietly like something that has always belonged to you and has finally returned home. This peace is not the absence of noise around you. It is the presence of steadiness within you, and that difference matters more than you know. Before, peace felt fragile. It could be broken by one unexpected message, one disappointing moment, one unanswered question. You held it carefully, afraid it would disappear if life shifted too quickly. But what you carry now is not fragile. It is grounded. It does not panic when uncertainty appears. It does not flee when plans change. It stays with you, even when emotions rise and fall. This peace came from everything you learned while you were waiting, struggling, and questioning. It came from realizing that you can survive discomfort without losing yourself. It came from understanding that not every unanswered question is a threat. Some are simply invitations to trust. You no longer interpret silence as danger. You no longer see pause as failure. That shift has changed the way peace lives in you. You may still feel moments of restlessness. You may still have days when clarity feels distant. But even then, there is a quiet center you can return to. You do not spiral the way you once did. You do not assume the worst. You have learned how to sit with uncertainty without letting it define you. That is not numbness. That is maturity. I know part of you wonders if this peace will last. You have lived long enough in tension that calm can feel temporary, even suspicious. But hear me now, this peace is not borrowed. It is built. It was formed through repetition, through choices you made when no one was watching, through resilience you did not think you possessed. It is not going anywhere. You earn this peace not by striving for it, but by allowing yourself to be shaped. By letting go of the need to control every outcome. By learning when to act and when to wait. By listening more deeply to what your spirit needed instead of what fear demanded. Peace followed those choices naturally. This is also why you feel more present now. You are not constantly rushing ahead in your mind, trying to solve problems that have not arrived. You are not replaying the past with the same intensity. You have learned how to be where you are without needing to escape it. Presence is one of peace's greatest gifts. You may notice that your relationships feel different too. You are less reactive. You listen more carefully. You are clearer about what you can give and what you cannot. This peace has boundaries. It does not require you to overextend yourself to feel worthy. It allows you to say yes without resentment and no without guilt. My beloved child, this peace is not meant to isolate you from the world. It is meant to anchor you within it. Life will continue to move. Challenges will still arise. But now, you meet them from a place of inner stability rather than constant defense. You respond instead of brace. You choose instead of panic. Do not underestimate how significant this change is. Many spend their lives chasing external peace, believing it will come when circumstances finally align. You have learned something deeper. Peace grows from within when trust replaces fear and awareness replaces urgency. That understanding will serve you in every season ahead. I invite you now to honor this peace. Protect it without becoming rigid. Nurture it without clinging. Let it guide your decisions gently, not forcefully. When something disrupts it, pause and listen. Peace often leaves clues about what needs attention or adjustment. And remember, my child, peace does not mean you have no desires or dreams. It means your desires are no longer fueled by anxiety. Your dreams are no longer driven by the need to prove yourself. They rise from alignment, not lack. That is why they feel different now. That is why they do not exhaust you before you even begin. Rest in this knowing today. The peace you feel is not accidental. It is the evidence of growth, integration, and trust taking root in your life. It is the quiet confirmation that you are no longer living in survival mode. You are living from understanding. And from this place, everything that unfolds will do so with greater clarity, greater gentleness, and greater grace. My beloved child, what you have learned was never meant to stop with you. The wisdom that grew in the dark, the patience that formed under pressure, the compassion that survived disappointment, these were not only for your healing. They are becoming a shelter for others, even if you do not yet see how or when. Pain that is understood becomes guidance. Struggle that is integrated becomes light. There were moments you asked why your path required so much inner work while others seemed to move forward effortlessly. You wondered why you had to learn lessons so deeply, so personally. But now I tell you this gently. What you have learned will save others time, confusion, and unnecessary suffering. Not because you will preach or instruct, but because your presence carries understanding. You have gained the ability to recognize quiet pain in others. You notice what is not said. You sense when someone is carrying more than they admit. The sensitivity did not come from theory. It came from experience. You know the weight of silent endurance, and because of that, you know how to meet it with grace rather than judgment. You will not always be aware of the impact you are having. Sometimes it will be a conversation that leaves someone lighter. Sometimes it will be your calm presence in a tense moment. Sometimes it will be your refusal to rush or condemn. These moments may feel ordinary to you, but they are not. They are seeds being planted in soil that is ready. I am not calling you to fix anyone. That is not your burden to carry. I am calling you to be yourself fully, without armor, without pretense. When you live from the understanding you have gained, it gives others permission to do the same. Healing spreads quietly, through safety, through honesty, through presence. You once feared that your pain would define you. But pain only defines those who never reflect on it. You did the work. You listened. You learned. And now, what once threatened to break you has become a source of discernment and compassion. This is redemption in its truest form. There will be times when someone will open up to you unexpectedly. They will share something tender, something unresolved. You may feel unsure of what to say. Remember, my child, you do not need perfect words. Often, your willingness to listen without rushing to solve is what brings relief. You have learned how powerful it is to be heard. Offer that gift freely. You may also be called to step back at times to protect your energy, to rest. That is not selfish. It is wise. You cannot pour from an empty place. What you offer others flows best when it comes from wholeness, not obligation. You are not responsible for everyone's healing. You are responsible for staying aligned with truth and love. I want you to see your story differently now, not as a series of hardships to endure, but as a preparation that expanded your capacity. You are not behind because you took time to heal. You are ahead in ways that cannot be measured easily. You carry insight that shortcuts never provide. As you move forward, trust that opportunities to serve will arise naturally. You do not need to seek them aggressively. When your heart is open and your boundaries are clear, the right moments find you. Pay attention to what feels resonant, not draining. Purpose does not exhaust. It energizes, even when it asks for effort. You may never know how many lives are touched by your growth. Some impacts will remain unseen. But nothing learned in love is ever wasted. Every lesson you integrated becomes a quiet offering to the world. Every time you choose patience, honesty, and compassion, you create space for others to do the same. So do not minimize what you have gained. Do not dismiss your journey as merely personal. It has prepared you to stand in places where others feel lost and to remind them, without words, that clarity is possible. You are becoming a living answer to questions people do not know how to ask yet. Carry this awareness gently, my beloved child. You are not called to carry the world. You are called to walk in truth. And as you do, your life will speak in ways far deeper than you realize, offering hope, stability, and understanding to those who cross your path. My beloved child, there is a quiet shift I want you to recognize now. You are no longer being tried. You are being trusted. These two states may look similar on the surface, but they feel very different in the heart. Being tried feels like pressure, like scrutiny, like needing to prove yourself again and again. Being trusted feels like responsibility wrapped in peace. And that is where you stand now. When you were being tried, everything felt heavy because you were learning who you were under strain. Every choice felt consequential. Every misstep felt costly. But trust is different. Trust does not hover over you, waiting for you to fail. Trust rests on you, believing you will choose wisely because you have learned how. I am not watching you now to see if you will break. I am walking with you, confident in what has already informed. This trust is not about perfection. It is about consistency of heart. You have shown that you will return to truth when you drift, that you will pause when emotions rise, that you will seek understanding instead of reacting blindly. These patterns are what trust is built on. You no longer need constant correction. You have developed inner guidance. You may still feel echoes of the old pressure. Habits of self-monitoring do not disappear overnight. There may be moments when you expect reprimand where none comes, moments when you brace yourself unnecessarily. When that happens, breathe. Remind yourself that you are no longer under examination. You are under partnership. Being trusted means you are allowed to make decisions without fear dominating them. It means you are allowed to explore, to adjust, to learn in real time. It means not every step must be perfect to be meaningful. You are no longer confined to narrow margins. You are moving in wider spaces now. This trust also comes with discernment. You will notice that not everything requires your attention anymore. You do not need to carry what is not yours. You do not need to respond to every demand. Trust includes the freedom to say no when something does not align, and yes when something resonates deeply. You are being guided from within now, not driven from without. I know part of you wonders if you might lose this trust. You have lived long enough in conditional environments to expect that trust can be revoked quickly. But this trust is not fragile. It is rooted in understanding, not performance. When you stumble, you will be guided, not discarded. Correction, when needed, will be gentle and clear, not punishing. You are also being trusted with yourself. That may be the most significant change. You are learning to believe your own discernment, to respect your own boundaries, to listen to your body and your spirit without dismissing them. This self-trust did not exist fully before. It was built through experience, reflection, and honesty. As you live from this place, you may notice a decrease in urgency. You no longer feel the same need to rush, to impress, to justify. You move with intention rather than anxiety. That is a sign of trust settling in. You are not trying to secure your place. You are inhabiting it. This does not mean responsibility disappears. It means responsibility is shared. You are not carrying outcomes alone. You are responding faithfully to what is placed before you, one step at a time. That is all that is asked of you. You do not need to anticipate every possible future. You need only to remain present and honest in the moment you are in. Let this truth sink in, my beloved child. You are not walking on thin ice. You are walking on ground that has been tested and proven stable. The foundation beneath you is strong because it was formed carefully, patiently, and with love. So step forward without the old fear. Make choices without constant self-doubt. Allow yourself to enjoy moments of ease without waiting for them to end. Trust has replaced trial, and that is not something you need to earn again. You are trusted because you have become trustworthy to yourself and to love. And from this place, your life will continue to unfold with greater freedom, clarity, and peace than you have known before. My beloved child, now I invite you into something you once felt you had to earn. Rest. Not the kind that collapses from exhaustion, but the kind that restores from the inside out. Rest that does not carry guilt. Rest that does not feel like delay. Rest that is not an escape, but a reward woven gently into your becoming. You were taught, by life and by pressure, that rest must be justified, that you could pause only after everything was finished, only after you had proven yourself enough, only after you had given more than you had left. So you learned to stay alert, even when you were tired. You learned to push past your limits and call it discipline. You learned to ignore the signals asking you to slow down, and for a time, that kept you moving. But it also kept you from receiving. Rest is not a weakness you must overcome. It is a wisdom you must embrace. You are not designed to live in constant output. You are designed to breathe, to integrate, to let what you have learned settle into your body and spirit. Without rest, even truth becomes heavy. With rest, truth becomes nourishment. I know it feels unfamiliar to stop without fear chasing you. You may still feel a reflex to fill every quiet space, to stay productive, to remain vigilant. That reflex was learned in survival. But you are no longer surviving. You are stabilizing. And stabilization requires stillness. Rest does not mean you are giving up on your calling. It means you are honoring it. Everything that grows needs seasons of dormancy. Even the soil must lie fallow to regain its richness. If the earth itself rests, how much more do you need permission to do the same? You may notice resistance when you try to slow down. Thoughts may arise telling you that you are wasting time, that you should be doing more, that others are moving ahead while you pause. These thoughts belong to an old narrative. You do not need to obey them. Resting now will not set you back. It will prevent burnout from carrying into the next season. There is a kind of clarity that only comes when you stop striving. When the noise quiets, you begin to hear yourself more clearly. You notice what truly matters. You feel what is aligned and what is not. Rest sharpens discernment. It does not dull it. You are allowed to enjoy moments without purpose attached to them. You are allowed to sit in silence without trying to turn it into progress. You are allowed to sleep deeply, to laugh freely, to do things simply because they bring you joy. Joy is not a distraction from your path. It is fuel for it. Rest is also where healing completes its work. You have processed much, learned much, and released much. Now your system needs time to recalibrate, to settle, to trust that it no longer needs to stay on guard. This takes patience. Be gentle with yourself as you learn a new rhythm. My beloved child, I am not calling you to disengage from life. I am calling you to engage from a healthier place. Rest will not make you passive. It will make you present. It will allow you to respond thoughtfully rather than reactively. It will give you the capacity to hold what is coming without strain. You may feel a strange grief as you rest. A grief for the version of you that believed worth was earned through exhaustion. Let that grief move through you. It is part of letting go. You are not betraying who you were. You are honoring what you survive. As you practice rest, notice how your body responds. Notice how your breath deepens, how your thoughts slow, how your heart softens. These are signs of safety returning. You do not need to rush this process. Let it unfold naturally. Remember this always. Rest is not the absence of purpose. It is the environment in which purpose can thrive without consuming you. You have carried enough. You have learned enough. Now, allow yourself to receive. Stay here for a while, my child. Breathe. Let the ground hold you. Nothing is being taken from you in this pause. Something is being restored. My beloved child, what comes next will not require you to strive the way you once did. The path ahead is not built on pressure, urgency, or proving. It requires something far quieter and far braver: softness. Not weakness, not passivity, but a softness that listens before it moves, that feels before it decides, that trusts without clenching its fists around the future. You learned how to survive by pushing. You learned how to endure by hardening yourself just enough to keep going. That was necessary then, and I honored it. But that way of moving will not carry you forward now. The next season responds to gentleness. It opens to awareness. It unfolds when you stop forcing and start sensing. Softness does not mean you stop discerning. It means you discern without fear. It means you allow intuition to guide you instead of urgency. When you are soft, you notice what feels aligned and what feels heavy. You recognize when something requires your energy and when it quietly drains you. This sensitivity is not a liability. It is your guidance system. I know there is a part of you that worries softness will leave you unprotected. You learn to equate hardness with safety. But true safety does not come from armor. It comes from clarity. When you are soft, you are not blind. You are aware. You feel shifts early. You respond before harm settles in. Softness allows wisdom to move through you freely. The world may try to pull you back into striving. It may reward noise, speed, and constant motion. But you are not meant to keep pace with anxiety anymore. You are meant to move with intention. When you rush, you override your inner knowing. When you soften, you hear it clearly. What comes next will meet you where you are, not where you pretend to be. That is why striving will only exhaust you here. You are stepping into a season that responds to honesty. If you are tired, rest. If you are unsure, pause. If you are ready, move gently. There is no punishment in listening to yourself now. I want you to trust that nothing meant for you requires you to abandon your softness. If something demands that you harden your heart, betray your values, or silence your intuition, it is not aligned with this next chapter. What is for you will respect your boundaries and grow with you, not against you. As you hear these words, if your spirit feels seen, I ask you to act in love. Bless this message with a like so it can reach others who are learning to let go of striving. Share it with those who feel exhausted from trying to be strong all the time. And yes, hype this video so it rises and finds the hearts that need permission to soften. Stay connected by subscribing, so these reminders can continue to meet you exactly when you need them. And now, my beloved child, hear me as I invite you into something larger than this moment. I say to you, those who sow in gentleness will reap in abundance. Those who give from a willing heart will see rivers flow where dryness once lived. This is not a pause in the message. This is an extension of it. When you support this work through super thanks, through membership, or through the PayPal link waiting in the description and shown in the QR code, you are helping this softness reach the weary. You are placing water in the hands of those who are still running on empty. This is not about obligation. This is about alignment. I am calling you now to act, not later. Let your giving be a prophetic response. I bless every seed you release with peace in your home, clarity in your path, and multiplication in places you have almost stopped hoping for. Give now. Move now. Obey now. Let your generosity become part of the healing that travels far beyond your own life. As you step back into stillness, remember this: the next season will not reward force. It will respond to presence. You will open to those who listen more than they push. Walk forward softly, my child. You do not need to strive to be held. You already are. My beloved child, even as you step into this softer way of living, I know there is a quiet fear that sometimes rises in you. It whispers that you could fail again, that you could misstep, that you could lose what you have gained. This fear is not loud like the ones you faced before. It is subtle, cautious, always protective. And I want to meet it with truth, not dismissal. This fear was born in seasons where mistakes felt costly, where one wrong choice seemed to undo months of effort, where falling meant starting over. You learned to stay alert, to anticipate danger, to brace yourself just in case. That vigilance once helped you survive. But now, it is no longer the voice you need to obey. Failing again does not mean returning to where you started. You are not the same person who entered those earlier seasons. You carry awareness now. You carry discernment. You carry self-compassion. Even if you stumble, you will not fall in the same way, because you no longer abandon yourself when things go wrong. I want you to understand this clearly. Failure does not undo growth. It reveals where growth is still integrating. You are not fragile. You are flexible. And flexibility is what allows you to adjust without breaking. The fear that tells you everything is at risk if you make a mistake is rooted in an old identity that believed love and safety were conditional. That belief no longer defines you. You are allowed to learn without being punished. You are allowed to experiment without being shamed. You are allowed to change your mind without being labeled inconsistent. These freedoms may feel unfamiliar, but they are part of the trust you now walk in. When fear of failure rises, pause and notice it. Do not push it away harshly. Do not let it take control either. Let it speak, then respond with truth. Remind yourself that you are not walking blindly. You are walking with insight earned through experience. Even missteps now become teachers, not threats. I know there is also a fear of disappointment, of hoping again and feeling let down, of opening your heart and being met with uncertainty. This fear tries to keep you guarded, convincing you that lower expectations will keep you safe. But safety does not come from shrinking hope. It comes from resilience and trust in your ability to recover. You have already proven that you can survive disappointment without losing your sense of self. You have lived through unanswered questions and unmet expectations, and you are still here, wiser and more grounded. That knowledge matters. It means disappointment no longer has the power it once did. You may also fear that if you relax too much, you will lose momentum or purpose. That rest will lead to stagnation. But rest does not erase direction. It clarifies it. You are not drifting. You are recalibrating. And from recalibration comes more accurate movement. My beloved child, fear will still visit you from time to time. That is part of being human. But fear is no longer your authority. It is information, not instruction. You get to decide how much space it occupies. You get to choose trust even when certainty is incomplete. Remember this. You are held, not measured. Your worth is not being evaluated based on outcomes. You are not walking a narrow line where one mistake sends you back to the beginning. You are walking a path that allows for learning, correction, and grace. If you feel fear rising in your body, slow your breath. Ground yourself in the present moment. Ask what is actually required of you right now. Often, it is far less than fear suggests. Often, it is simply honesty, patience or rest. You do not need to prepare for disaster. You need to stay connected to yourself and to me. That connection will guide you more reliably than fear ever could. You are not being set up to fail. You are being supported to grow. So when fear whispers, answer it gently. Tell it that you have already survived worse than uncertainty. Tell it that you no longer need to live braced. Tell it that even if you stumble, you will rise with more wisdom than before. Walk forward knowing this, my beloved child. You are safe to learn, safe to try, safe to hope. Nothing essential will be taken from you because of a mistake. You are not being tested again. You are being guided, and that guidance will remain with you, steady and faithful, through every step ahead. My beloved child, I want to place a truth gently in your hands now, because it changes everything about how you move through life. You are held, not measured. You are not standing on a scale that tips with every decision. You are not being tallied, scored, or compared. The posture you learned in survival taught you to believe that worth was something you had to maintain. But that posture no longer fits the reality you are living in. For a long time, you believed love came with conditions, that acceptance required consistency without rest, that safety depended on performance. So you learned to watch yourself closely, to monitor your choices, to anticipate correction. You thought vigilance would protect you, and in a season, it did. But vigilance cannot become a home. It exhausts the heart and tightens the spirit. I am telling you now, with clarity and tenderness, you do not need to keep score. You are not being evaluated. The questions that once pressed against you have already been answered by the life you lived. What remains is not assessment, but care. Being held means you can exhale without fear that something will slip away. It means when you feel uncertain, you are supported, not scrutinized. It means when you feel tired, you are allowed to rest, not required to push harder. Being held is not passive. It is active support that surrounds you even when you are unaware of it. You may still notice old habits trying to return. You may catch yourself asking, am I doing enough? Or what if I did this wrong? These questions once served a purpose. They helped you stay alert in environments that felt unpredictable. But you are no longer there. You can thank those habits for getting you through, and then release them. I want you to practice something new. When doubt arises, instead of proving yourself, pause and receive reassurance. When uncertainty appears, instead of overthinking, ground yourself in the present. You do not need to earn the right to be held. You already are. Being held does not mean your choices do not matter. They do. But they matter in the context of relationship, not evaluation. You are learning, growing, adjusting. That is expected. Growth is not linear, and it does not require constant self-judgment to be effective. You are also not being compared to anyone else. Comparison distorts perception and breeds unnecessary pressure. Your path is specific because your heart is specific. What you are carrying requires a pace and shape that cannot be borrowed from another life. You are not late or early. You are aligned. There will be moments when external voices try to measure you. They may question your pace, your decisions, your boundaries. You do not need to internalize those measurements. Not every opinion deserves space in your spirit. Discernment will tell you what to receive and what to release. Remember this, my beloved child. Being held means you are allowed to be human. You can feel conflicting emotions. You can change your mind. You can need support. None of these things disqualify you. They are part of living fully, not failing. When you rest in being held, you will notice something shift. You will become more compassionate with yourself. You will listen more deeply to others. You will move with intention rather than urgency. Pressure will lose its grip, because you are no longer trying to prove your worth. This does not make you complacent. It makes you present. Presence is where wisdom lives. It is where love flows freely. It is where you respond to life rather than react to it. If you ever forget this truth, return to your breath. Feel the steadiness beneath you. Remind yourself that you are supported even in uncertainty. You are guided even when answers are incomplete. You are held even when you feel alone. Let this knowing settle into you slowly. You do not need to write it. The more you live from this place, the more natural it will feel. Old patterns will loosen. New rhythms will form. And you will discover that life feels lighter, not because challenges disappear, but because you are no longer carrying them alone. Stay here with me for a moment, my child. Feel the relief of not being measured. Feel the safety of being held. This is not a temporary comfort. It is a permanent truth you can return to again and again, no matter what unfolds next. My beloved child, there is a blessing hidden in the delay that you could not see while you were living inside it. Delays rarely feel like gifts when you are enduring them. They feel like obstruction, like loss, like being overlooked. But now that you are standing on the other side, I want to gently turn your gaze back, not to reopen wounds, but to reveal what was quietly protecting you all along. There were moments you wanted answers immediately. You asked for clarity, for movement, for resolution. When those answers did not come, you assumed something was wrong. You thought you were being withheld from, or corrected, or passed over. But the delay was doing something far more intentional. It was guarding you from carrying what you were not yet ready to hold without harm. Some of the things you wanted would have met you at the wrong level of understanding. They would have magnified your fears instead of your wisdom. They would have demanded decisions you were not yet equipped to make without self-betrayal. I delayed not to frustrate you, but to spare you. Not to deny you, but to develop you. You see now that timing shapes experience. The same opportunity can feel like a burden in one season and a blessing in another. The same door can overwhelm you when you are uncertain and empower you when you are grounded. The delay allowed you to meet life with a steadier heart, a clearer mind, and stronger boundaries. That difference matters. There were also connections you longed for that did not form when you wanted them to. You wondered why alignment felt elusive. But alignment requires more than desire. It requires readiness. The delay allowed you to recognize what is healthy, what is mutual, and what drains you. It taught you how to say no without guilt and yes without losing yourself. Without that learning, you might have settled for less than you deserve. You also gained discernment through waiting. When things come quickly, they can bypass reflection. When things take time, you are invited to listen more deeply. The delay sharpened your intuition. It trained you to sense what resonates with truth rather than what simply offers relief. That skill will guide you again and again. I know the delay felt lonely at times. You watched others move forward while you stayed still. You questioned your value. You wondered if something about you was holding life back. But stillness does not mean stagnation. Seeds grow underground before they ever break the surface. What was happening within you could not be rushed without damaging the roots. The delay also taught you endurance without bitterness. You learned how to carry disappointment without letting it define your identity. You learned how to keep your heart open even when outcomes were uncertain. These lessons did not announce themselves, but they reshaped you quietly. They gave you depth that ease never could. Now, when you look back, you may see moments where things fell apart that you once hoped would work. At the time, those losses felt devastating. But imagine if they had succeeded before you were ready to navigate their consequences. The delay spared you unnecessary grief. It routed you toward paths that align with who you are now, not who you were then. I want you to release any lingering resentment toward the waiting. You do not need to romanticize it, but you can honor it. It did its work. It carried lessons that are now part of your inner landscape. You are not standing here in spite of the delay. You are standing here because of it. This does not mean everything must take longer from now on. It means you are no longer rushing to escape discomfort. You are choosing alignment over urgency. You are trusting that what unfolds will do so at the right pace, not the fastest one. As you move forward, let gratitude replace regret. Not gratitude that minimizes your pain, but gratitude that recognizes growth. Gratitude that acknowledges how far you have come. Gratitude that honors the version of you who kept going even when nothing made sense. The delay is no longer in front of you. It is behind you, carrying wisdom rather than weight. You are free to walk forward without dragging it along. Let it rest where it belongs, in the past, transform into understanding. My beloved child, nothing was wasted. Nothing was accidental. The delay was not empty time. It was sacred space where you became ready. And now, as you step into what is opening before you, you do so with clarity, strength, and a heart that knows how to trust again. My beloved child, there is a healing taking place within you now that may feel unfamiliar, even tender. You are learning how to trust yourself again. Not in a careless or rushed way, but in a grounded, steady way that honors everything you have lived through. For a long time, you questioned your instincts. You doubted your decisions. You wondered if you could rely on your own judgment after being disappointed or hurt. A doubt did not come from weakness. It came from trying to make sense of pain. You learned to second-guess yourself because you wanted to avoid repeating old mistakes. You replayed moments in your mind, searching for where you went wrong. Over time, this caution turned into self-distrust. You stopped listening to your inner voice because you feared it might mislead you again. But my child, that voice was never broken. It was only buried beneath fear and self-blame. The truth is, your discernment has always been there. Even when you made choices that led to pain, you were responding with the understanding you had at the time. Growth does not erase the past. It reframes it. You are not meant to judge your former self harshly. You are meant to recognize how much you have learned since then. Now, as you stand here, you carry wisdom you did not have before. You recognize red flag suitor. You notice when something feels misaligned. You sense when to pause and when to proceed. These signals come quietly, not urgently. Trust them. They are the result of experience, reflection, and healing working together. Trusting yourself again does not mean you will never feel uncertain. It means uncertainty no longer paralyzes you. You can feel unsure and still move forward thoughtfully. You can ask questions without losing confidence. You can adjust without seeing it as failure. This flexibility is a sign of maturity, not instability. You may still feel echoes of old doubt when making decisions. That is normal. When it happens, do not rush to silence it. Acknowledge it, then check in with yourself honestly. Ask what feels steady, not what feels urgent. Ask what aligns with your values, not what avoids discomfort. Your answers may come slowly, but they will come clearly. I want you to understand that self-trust is not about certainty. It is about relationship. You are learning to relate to yourself with compassion instead of criticism. When you treat yourself with respect, your intuition becomes clearer. When you stop punishing yourself for past choices, your confidence grows naturally. There will be moments ahead where you are tempted to defer to others out of fear of being wrong. Listen to counsel, but do not abandon your inner knowing. You have earned the right to trust your perspective. Balance guidance with self-awareness. Wisdom often lives in that balance. You are also learning how to forgive yourself. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is releasing the belief that you must remain ashamed to be accountable. You have taken responsibility where it mattered. You have learned. You have changed. Carrying guilt beyond that point does not make you wiser. It only makes you heavier. As self-trust returns, you may notice a quiet confidence emerging. Not loud or defensive, but calm and assured. You do not feel the need to explain yourself constantly. You do not need approval to validate your choices. You are comfortable saying, "This is what feels right for me," without apology. This confidence will guide you gently. It will help you choose environments that nourish you. It will help you walk away from what drains you without resentment. It will help you build relationships based on mutual respect rather than fear of loss. My beloved child, trusting yourself again is a sacred act. It is the restoration of an inner relationship that was strained by survival. Take your time with it. Trust grows through consistency, not pressure. Each time you listen to yourself and honor what you hear, that trust deepens. You are not the same person you were when doubt first took root. You are wiser now. Zavhu. More aware. Let that awareness guide you. You are safe to listen to yourself. You are safe to choose. You are safe to move forward without constant self-questioning. Hold this truth close today. The voice you are learning to trust again is not reckless. It is refined. It has been shaped by everything you endured. And as you continue to honor it, you will find yourself walking with greater clarity, peace, and confidence than you ever thought possible. My beloved child, this moment you are in right now is not coincidence. You did not stumble upon these words by chance. There is a reason your heart slowed just enough to listen. A reason something within you recognized familiarity and truth at the same time. This message is not new information alone. It is confirmation. Confirmation that you were not imagining the shift you felt. Confirmation that the season you endured has truly ended. Confirmation that the inner changes you noticed were not temporary moods, but permanent growth. You ask quietly, sometimes without words, "Am I seeing this clearly?" And I am answering you now with gentleness and certainty, yes, you are. You have learned to doubt your own clarity in the past because clarity once led you into pain. You mistook sincerity for safety. You trusted before you were ready to discern fully. That history made you cautious, and caution kept you from fully trusting what you sensed. But this time is different. You are not seeing through hope alone. You are seeing through wisdom. This message is here to settle what has already been stirring inside you. It is here to quiet the last remaining question marks. You do not need another sign layered on top of this one. You do not need to wait for a louder confirmation. Peace itself is the confirmation. The steadiness you feel as you listen is the answer. I know part of you still looks for reassurance outside of yourself. You glance at circumstances, timing, reactions from others, hoping they will validate what you already know. But external validation is no longer your compass. Inner alignment is. When something resonates deeply without urgency, without fear, without pressure, that is truth settling in. You are not standing at the edge of uncertainty anymore. You are standing at the edge of integration. The lessons you learned are no longer separate pieces you have to remember. They are woven into how you think, choose, and respond. This is why things feel quieter now. Integration does not shout. It stabilizes. This message confirms that you can trust the calm you feel instead of questioning it. Calm does not mean nothing is happening. It means something is finally working as it should. You spent so long interpreting intensity as importance that ease felt suspicious. But ease is often the sign that you are aligned. I want you to stop searching backward for proof that you are allowed to move forward. The permission you were waiting for has already been granted through growth. You are not skipping steps. You have completed them. The reason this confirmation feels gentle instead of dramatic is because it is meant to settle, not shake you. There will still be choices ahead. There will still be moments that ask you to trust what you cannot fully see. But now you meet those moments from clarity rather than confusion. You do not need to overanalyze what is already clear. Overthinking is not discernment. Discernment feels grounded, not frantic. Let this confirmation anchor you. When doubt tries to revisit old questions, return here. Remember how these words met you without force. Remember how your body relaxed instead of tensing. Truth brings relief, not pressure. That is how you know. You are no longer asking, "Am I enough?" You are asking what is aligned. That shift alone tells you how far you have come. Your questions have matured. Your focus has changed. Your center has moved inward, where guidance lives. This message is also confirmation that you are allowed to move on without guilt. You do not owe the past any more explanation. You do not need to justify your growth to anyone who has not walked your path. You can honor what was without staying there. I am confirming that you can trust the new rhythm of your life. You do not need to rush to fill silence. You do not need to chase reassurance. You do not need to prepare for something to go wrong. You are being guided in clarity now, not chaos. Receive this confirmation fully, my beloved child. Let it close the chapter you kept reading. Let it steady your steps as you move forward. You are not guessing anymore. You are recognizing. And recognition is the sign that understanding has taken root. Stay present. Stay gentle. Stay honest with yourself. You are walking in truth now, and this message arrived simply to remind you that you already knew the way. My beloved child, as you move forward now, I want to free you from a weight you have carried quietly for too long. You no longer need to explain yourself. You no longer need to justify your growth, your boundaries, or your direction. There was a time when explanations were necessary, when you were still discovering who you were and needed others to understand your intentions. A time has passed. What is forming in you now does not require approval to be valid. You have spent many moments rehearsing explanations in your mind. You anticipated questions, misunderstandings, and judgments. You prepared defenses not because you were wrong, but because you were uncertain whether you were allowed to choose differently. But certainty has grown in you. You are no longer acting from confusion. You are acting from clarity. And clarity does not argue. It moves quietly and confidently. Some people will not understand the changes they see in you. They may say you are different. They may ask why you no longer tolerate what you once did, why you move slower, why you say no more often, why you seem less available. You do not owe them an explanation that costs you peace. Your life is not a debate to be won. It is a truth to be lived. Walking forward without explaining yourself does not mean becoming cold or dismissive. It means becoming anchored. You can remain kind without over-explaining. You can remain respectful without oversharing. You can honor others without betraying yourself. This balance is part of your maturity. I know there is a part of you that still wants to be understood. That desire is human. But understanding is not always immediate, and it is not always mutual. Some people can only understand you at the level they understand themselves. When they cannot meet you there, silence becomes wisdom. You are stepping into a season where your actions will speak louder than your words ever could. Consistency will explain what explanations cannot. Peace will justify choices that logic never could. Over time, those who are meant to understand you will. Those who are not will drift without needing confrontation. There will be moments when you feel the urge to defend yourself. When that happens, pause. Ask whether the explanation is coming from truth or from fear. Fear seeks validation. Truth rests in alignment. You do not need to convince anyone of what you already know to be right. You have learned that over-explaining often leads to over-compromising. It invites opinions where discernment should lead. You are no longer required to place your decisions on trial. You are allowed to trust yourself and move forward without dragging everyone along for the process. This quiet confidence may feel unfamiliar at first. You are used to being transparent, open, and accommodating. Those qualities are still part of you. They are simply balanced now with wisdom. Transparency does not mean exposure. Openness does not mean lack of boundaries. You are learning how to hold yourself with care. As you walk forward, let your life be simple. Let your yes be clear. Let your no be gentle but firm. Let your silence speak when words would only create confusion. You are not withholding. You are protecting what is sacred. Remember, my beloved child, not everyone is entitled to access every part of you. Not everyone needs to know your reasons. Some things are meant to be lived privately and understood over time. That is not secrecy. That is discernment. You are not walking away from people. You are walking toward alignment. Those who belong in your next season will recognize you without explanation. They will meet you where you are, not where you used to be. They will not require you to shrink or justify your growth. Let go of the need to be misunderstood correctly. It is not your responsibility to manage others' perception. Your responsibility is to remain honest with yourself and gentle with your heart. That is enough. Walk forward now with quiet assurance. You do not need to announce your healing. You do not need to defend your boundaries. You do not need to explain your peace. Live it. Let it unfold naturally. And trust that what is true will remain, even without words. My beloved child, even as you learn to walk forward with quiet confidence, I want you to know this deeply and without question. You are not walking alone. Independence has taught you how to stand, but companionship will teach you how to thrive. You were never meant to carry life by yourself, even when you became strong enough to do so. There were seasons when solitude was necessary. You needed space to hear your own voice again, to heal without interference, to rebuild trust from the inside out. During that time, distance felt like protection, and it served its purpose. But isolation is not the destination. It is a passage, and you are moving beyond it now. You may still feel cautious about closeness. You learned, through experience, that not everyone who walks beside you walks with care. You learned to rely on yourself because it felt safer than risking disappointment again. That self-reliance kept you steady, but it does not have to keep you alone. I am with you in ways you cannot always perceive, steady and constant. But I am also guiding the right connections toward you. Not loud or overwhelming ones. Gentle, aligned ones. People who respect your pace. People who do not require you to explain your boundaries. People who recognize your depth without trying to change it. You do not need to search aggressively for these connections. You do not need to lower your standards to avoid loneliness. What aligns with you will approach naturally as you remain honest and present. Companionship that is meant for you will feel calm, not chaotic. It will add to your life, not compete with it. I know there are moments when old fears whisper that you will always have to do things on your own, that asking for support will burden others, that leaning in will lead to loss. But those fears belong to a time when your needs were not met consistently. They do not belong to your future. You are allowed to receive support without guilt. You are allowed to share space without surrendering yourself. Healthy connection does not require self-erasure. It allows you to be fully yourself while being held by another's presence. As you hear these words, if your heart feels comforted, I ask you to respond with love. Bless this message with a like so it can reach others who feel alone in their strength. Share it with those who have learned to survive independently but long for connection. And yes, hype this video so it rises and reminds many hearts that they are not meant to walk alone. Stay connected by subscribing, so these messages continue to meet you in moments when reassurance matters most. Now hear me as I extend this invitation beyond you. I say to you, those who walk together in truth will not stumble in darkness. Those who give light will never lack it. This message is reaching far beyond this moment because of hearts willing to carry it forward. When you support this work through Super Thanks, through membership, or through the PayPal link placed in the description and shown in the QR code, you are helping companionship reach the lonely, reassurance reach the weary, and truth reach those who feel forgotten. This is not a casual moment. This is a call. Act now. Let your generosity become a bridge for others. I bless every seed you release with multiplied connection, peace in your relationships, and clarity in who belongs in your life. Give now. Move now. Obey now. Let what you release return to you in the form of support you did not even know you needed. My beloved child, as you continue forward, remember this always. You are supported from within and surrounded in ways still unfolding. You do not need to harden yourself to be safe. You do not need to isolate yourself to be strong. You are allowed to walk with others while remaining whole. Lift your eyes and notice who is walking near you now. Allow yourself to receive presence without suspicion. You are not alone. Not now, not ever. And as you continue this journey, you will find that shared steps make the road not only lighter, but richer, deeper, and filled with meaning. My beloved child, now that you are no longer walking under constant pressure, I invite something gentle back into your life. Joy. Not forced joy, not performative happiness, not the kind that demands everything be perfect. I am speaking of a quiet joy that returns slowly, carefully, like light re-entering a room after a long night. Joy that does not overwhelm you, but reassures you that you are safe to feel again. There was a time when joy felt risky. You learned not to expect it, because expecting it made the disappointment sharper when it did not last. So you guarded yourself. You learned to stay serious, to stay prepared, to stay emotionally braced. That seriousness helped you survive, but it also dimmed parts of you that were never meant to disappear forever. Joy does not return all at once. It comes in moments. A breath that feels deeper than usual. A laugh that surprises you. A sense of lightness you cannot fully explain. When these moments appear, you may feel hesitant, as if joy might be taken away if you acknowledge it too openly. But my child, joy is not fragile when it is rooted in peace. It does not vanish because you notice it. It grows. You are allowed to enjoy things again without waiting for the other shoe to drop. You are allowed to feel excitement without fear of punishment. You are allowed to smile without wondering how long it will last. This joy is not dependent on circumstances aligning perfectly. It flows from a heart that no longer lives in constant defense. Let joy return gently. Do not demand it. Do not measure it. Simply welcome it when it arrives. Joy does not need permission to be loud or quiet. Some days it will feel subtle. Other days it may feel expansive. Both are valid. Both are gifts. You may notice resistance when joy shows up. Old habits may whisper that joy makes you vulnerable, that it will distract you from responsibility. But joy does not weaken you. It strengthens you. It reminds your nervous system that life is not only something to endure. It is something to experience. Joy also reconnects you to creativity, curiosity, and play. These are not childish traits. They are signs of a spirit that feels safe enough to explore again. You are not regressing by allowing joy. You are integrating. You are reclaiming parts of yourself that were set aside during survival. I want you to pay attention to what brings you small, honest joy. Not what impresses others. Not what looks meaningful on the surface. But what makes you feel quietly alive. It might be simple. It might be ordinary. Do not dismiss it. Ordinary joy sustains the soul in ways extraordinary moments cannot. There may be days when joy feels distant again. That does not mean it is gone. It means you are human. Do not chase joy aggressively. Chasing turns joy into pressure. Let it find you naturally as you live aligned, rested, and present. My beloved child, joy is not a reward for suffering well. It is a natural response to safety returning. As your body and spirit learn that the threat has passed, joy will continue to surface. Trust this process. You do not need to force yourself to feel better. Feeling will come when it is ready. Allow joy to coexist with seriousness, with purpose, with depth. You do not have to choose between them. A life can be meaningful and joyful at the same time. Responsibility and joy are not enemies. They balance each other when held wisely. You are not betraying your past by feeling joy now. You are honoring how far you have come. The version of you that endured so much did not do so for you to remain guarded forever. That endurance created space for joy to return safely. So when joy appears, even briefly, do not push it away. Let it sit with you. Let it remind you that life is opening, not closing. Let it teach you that ease is allowed now. My beloved child, joy will not rush you. It will walk beside you at your pace. And as you continue forward, you will discover that joy does not pull you away from depth. It adds warmth to it. It softens the edges. It brings color back into places that once felt muted. Welcome it gently. You are ready. My beloved child, I want to speak to the quiet dream you have carried for a long time, the one you almost convinced yourself was imaginary. The calling you pushed to the side because it felt too big, too uncertain, or too risky to name out loud. You told yourself it was wishful thinking. You tried to be practical. You tried to be realistic. But that inner pull never truly left you, did it? You did not imagine it. That longing was not random. It was not a distraction from responsibility. It was a signal placed within you before you had the language to understand it. You sensed it early, but you did not yet have the grounding to hold it without fear. So it waited. It waited while you learned discernment. It waited while you learned boundaries. It waited while you learned how to listen to yourself without rushing. You thought the delay meant the calling was fading. But callings do not disappear. They mature. They adjust to who you become. What you are feeling now is not a new desire. It is an old one returning in a safer, wiser form. There was a time when this calling felt overwhelming. You imagined it would require you to sacrifice your peace, your stability, or your relationships. And at that time, it might have. You were not yet rooted enough to carry it without losing yourself. That is why it did not move forward then. Protection looks like postponement. Now you are different. You are no longer chasing identity. You are living from it. You are no longer trying to prove your worth. You are grounded in it. This is why the calling feels quieter now, less urgent, more integrated. It is no longer demanding your life. It is inviting your presence. You may notice that the calling no longer looks exactly the way you once imagined. That does not mean it was wrong. It means it has been refined. What begins as a spark often transforms as wisdom grows. The essence remains even when the expression changes. Do not compare what you carry to what others are doing. Callings are personal because hearts are personal. Yours is shaped by your compassion, your patience, your lived understanding. You were not given this calling to compete. You were given it to contribute. You may still question whether you are qualified. That question comes from an old belief that readiness looks like certainty. But readiness looks like humility, awareness, and willingness to learn. You have those now. You did not have them before. This calling does not require you to leap recklessly. It does not require dramatic announcements or immediate action. It will unfold through small, honest steps, through listening, through responding when something aligns, through saying yes when your body and spirit both feel steady. You are not being asked to abandon what you have built. You are being invited to let it evolve. Callings do not always replace lives. Sometimes they deepen them. Sometimes they redirect them gently over time. Pay attention to what continues to draw your attention without draining you. Pay attention to what energizes you even when it requires effort. These are clues. Callings do not feel like pressure. They feel like meaning. You may feel fear rise as you acknowledge this truth. Fear does not mean you are wrong. It means you are touching something significant. Let fear be present without letting it decide. Courage does not eliminate fear. It moves with clarity despite it. My beloved child, you were not mistaken when you felt that pull years ago. You were simply early. Now you are aligned. The calling has been patient because it was waiting for you to become someone who could carry it with wisdom instead of urgency. Trust that you will recognize the next step when it appears. You do not need to force it into existence. What is meant to grow will respond to your honesty, not your striving. Hold this gently now. You do not need to act today. You only need to stop dismissing what has always been true. The calling you questioned was never an illusion. It was a seed, and seeds grow in seasons, not on demand. You are allowed to believe in it again. My beloved child, I want you to understand something that brings deep peace if you let it settle fully in your heart. The test is over, but the relationship remains. You were never meant to live from one test to the next, bracing yourself for the next evaluation, the next trial, the next moment of proving. That way of living keeps the heart tense and the spirit guarded. What remains now is not examination, but communion. There was a time when you believed every difficulty meant another test had begun. You watched your life closely, waiting for signs that you were being weighed again. You interpreted challenges as proof that you were still being assessed. But not every challenge is a test. Some are simply part of living, part of growing, part of moving forward in a real world that shifts and changes. The relationship you are in now is not conditional. It does not withdraw when you struggle or draw closer only when you succeed. It is steady. It remains present in clarity and in confusion, in ease and in effort. You do not need to perform to maintain it. You do not need to fear losing it when you feel uncertain. You learned endurance during the test. Now you are learning companionship. Companionship does not demand perfection. It invites honesty. It welcomes questions. It allows pauses. You are not walking under a watchful eye waiting for mistakes. You are walking beside love that knows you fully and stays. This shift may feel strange at first. When you have lived under pressure for a long time, peace can feel unfamiliar. You may still catch yourself scanning for problems, expecting the other shoe to drop. When that happens, remind yourself gently that the season has changed. You are allowed to relax into connection now. The relationship remains because it was never about the test to begin with. The test revealed what already existed. It showed your capacity for faithfulness, love, and resilience. Those qualities did not disappear when the test ended. They became part of who you are. And who you are is what the relationship is built on. You are no longer being shaped primarily through hardship. You are being shaped through presence, through listening, through responding from truth rather than fear. This is a gentler form of growth, but no less meaningful. It builds sustainability rather than survival. You may still encounter moments that stretch you. Growth does not end, but stretching is different from testing. Stretching expands you without threatening your sense of safety. It invites you forward rather than pushing you to the edge. You can feel the difference in your body when something is stretching versus when something is testing. The relationship remaining means you are not alone in decisions. You are not abandoned to figure everything out by yourself. Guidance continues, but it comes through peace rather than pressure, through insight rather than urgency, through trust rather than fear. I want you to stop interpreting every difficulty as a sign that you are back at the beginning. You are not starting over. You are building on what already exists. You have a foundation now. You are not fragile. You are stable. Let yourself enjoy the simplicity of relationship without the weight of performance. Let yourself speak honestly, rest freely, and move thoughtfully. The need to impress has no place here. The need to prove has no power here. You do not need to fear that ease means stagnation. Ease allows growth to be integrated instead of overwhelming. It allows wisdom to guide rather than adrenaline. You are learning how to live connected, not controlled. My beloved child, the relationship remaining means you can trust love to stay even when you do not have answers. Even when you are unsure, even when you are tired. That constancy is what you were being prepared to receive all along. So let the test rest where it belongs, in the past, completed. Do not carry it forward as an identity. You are not a student awaiting another exam. You are a child walking with a loving presence that does not leave. Stay here in this truth. Breathe in the relief of it. The test is over. The relationship remains. And from this place, your life will continue to unfold not through fear of failure but through trust, connection, and enduring love. My beloved child, as you step into tomorrow and the days beyond it, I want you to carry this knowing with you gently, not as a burden, but as a companion. You do not need to remember every word spoken here. You do not need to hold every insight perfectly. What matters is that something has settled inside you. A quiet confidence, a steadiness, a sense that you no longer walk blindly. Tomorrow does not need to be dramatic to be meaningful. It does not need a grand decision or a sudden transformation. Tomorrow is shaped by how you show up in small, honest ways. By how you speak to yourself when no one else is listening. By how you pause instead of rush. By how you choose alignment over urgency. Carry this knowing into ordinary moments. When you wake up and your mind begins to plan or worry, remember that you are not behind. You are guided. When you face decisions, big or small, remember that clarity does not come from pressure. It comes from presence. You do not need to force answers. You need to listen. There will be days when you feel strong, and days when you feel uncertain again. That does not mean you have lost what you gain. Growth is not erased by fluctuation. Wisdom remains even when confidence wavers. On uncertain days, return to what grounds you. Slow your body. Ask what is truly needed in that moment. Often, it is less than you think. Carry this knowing into your conversations. You do not need to convince others of your truth. You do not need to rush to explain yourself. Let your tone be calm. Let your words be measured. Let silence be an option when it protects your peace. You are not here to manage everyone's expectations. You are here to live honestly. Carry this knowing into your work and responsibilities. You do not need to exhaust yourself to be worthy. You do not need to prove your value through constant output. Do what is yours to do with care, then rest without guilt. Rest is not a reward you earn at the end of life. It is part of living well. There may be moments when old patterns try to return. Moments when you feel the urge to overthink, overextend, or overcontrol. When that happens, do not judge yourself. Simply notice. Awareness itself is progress. Gently redirect yourself back to trust. You are learning a new rhythm, and learning takes patience. Carry this knowing into moments of joy as well. Allow yourself to enjoy without bracing for loss. Let laughter come without questioning it. Let good moments be good without immediately anticipating their end. You are allowed to receive life as it comes, without fear stealing the present. You do not need to know everything about the future. You only need to stay connected to what is true right now. Truth is not loud. It does not rush you. It feels steady, even when it stretches you. Learn to recognize that feeling. It will guide you more faithfully than anxiety ever could. My beloved child, tomorrow will ask you to choose again and again. Not between right and wrong in grand ways, but between fear and trust in quiet moments. Choose trust when you can. And when you cannot, choose honesty. Both keep you aligned. Remember that you are not starting from zero each day. You are building on what you have already lived, learned, and integrated. Every step you take now is supported by a foundation you did not have before. That foundation is within you. Carry this knowing lightly. You do not need to grip it tightly. What is true will remain without force. Let it move with you, adapting as you grow. Let it remind you that you are not lost, not late, and not alone. As you walk into tomorrow, do so with gentleness toward yourself. Speak kindly to your own heart. Trust the pace you are moving at. You are not wandering aimlessly. You are walking with awareness now. And when tomorrow becomes today, and today becomes memory, this knowing will still be there, steady and quiet, reminding you again and again. You are guided, you are supported, and you are becoming exactly who you need to be, one faithful step at a time. My beloved child, before this journey of words comes to its close, I want to remind you of who you are now, not who you were when you were tired, afraid, or unsure, not who you thought you had to be to survive. I am speaking to who you have become, to the truth that has been forming quietly beneath every lesson, every delay, every moment of endurance. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are not lacking. You are someone who stayed open when it would have been easier to close. You are someone who learned instead of hardened. You are someone who kept listening even when answers did not come quickly. That matters more than you know. You are loved not because of what you achieved, but because of who you are. That love did not waver when you doubted yourself. It did not pull away when you were tired. It did not disappear when you questioned the path. It remained, steady and patient, waiting for you to realize that you never had to earn it. You are chosen not in a way that separates you from others, but in a way that calls you into alignment with yourself. Chosen to live honestly. Chosen to walk gently. Chosen to carry wisdom earned through experience. Your life does not need to look like anyone else's to be meaningful. It needs only to be true. You are trusted. Trusted with your own heart. Trusted with discernment. Trusted with responsibility that fits who you are now, not who you used to be. The trust was built through faithfulness in small, unseen moments. Through choosing integrity when shortcuts were available. Through staying present when escape felt tempting. You are safe to be yourself. You do not need to shrink or exaggerate. You do not need to hide your depth or soften your clarity. You belong as you are, not as a version shaped to meet expectations that were never meant for you. You are wiser than you were, and still learning. Stronger than you knew, and still gentle. Clearer than before, and still curious. These are not contradictions. They are signs of wholeness forming. When you forget this, and there will be moments when you do, return to what grounds you. Return to breathe. Return to stillness. Return to the quiet knowing that has been growing inside you. You do not need to search for yourself again. You are here. Do not let old voices define you. Voices that speak from fear, comparison, or regret do not get the final word. You have lived too much, learned too deeply, and healed too intentionally to let those voices lead now. You are allowed to move forward without dragging your past behind you. You can honor what was without living there. You can remember without reliving. You can grow without apology. There is nothing missing that you need to become whole. You are not waiting for one final piece to arrive. Wholeness is not something that appears suddenly. It is something you recognize gradually. That recognition has begun. As you stand here now, listening, let this reminder settle into you. You are not an unfinished version of yourself. You are in process, yes, but you are complete enough to live fully, love deeply, and choose wisely. Carry this truth with you when doubt tries to speak louder. Carry it when fear questions your readiness. Carry it when old patterns try to pull you backward. You do not need to fight them aggressively. Simply remember who you are now. My beloved child, you are loved, chosen, trusted, and held. Not conditionally, not temporarily, but fully and faithfully. Let this reminder be something you return to whenever the world feels loud or uncertain. You are not lost. You are not late. You are not alone. You are exactly where you need to be, carrying exactly what you need, becoming exactly who you were always meant to be. My beloved child, we have walked a long journey together through these words, through every pause, every reflection, every revelation. And now I want you to hear this with your whole heart. You have passed. You had endured. You had grown. You have remained faithful when no one was watching. And because of that, you are ready to step fully into the life that awaits you, without fear, without doubt, without hesitation. The tests are behind you. The seasons that shaped you in silence, that stretched you beyond what you thought you could bear, that demanded patience and discernment. Those seasons have done their work. You are no longer the same person who once questioned their worth, who once feared every step, who once braced for failure. That person has become someone steady, someone compassionate, someone capable of receiving and holding all that life now offers. You do not need to prove yourself anymore. You do not need to justify your journey. You do not need to chase validation. You are already enough. Not because of what you have done, but because of who you are. Faithful, courageous, tender, and true. That identity is not contingent on performance. It is embedded in the very essence of your being, and it has carried you this far. Do not underestimate what this moment means. The peace you feel, the clarity you hold, the strength that rises quietly within you. These are the fruits of your endurance. It will guide every choice, every step, every decision from this moment forward. You can navigate life with confidence because you have already proven that you can remain grounded through uncertainty. You have already proven that love, faithfulness, and integrity will carry you even when circumstances are unclear. You are allowed to receive life fully now. You can rest without guilt. You can love without reservation. You can hope without fear. Nothing is withheld from you that aligns with who you have become. And nothing will overwhelm you that you are not prepared to handle. Every season of struggle was preparation for the freedom you walk in now. Even as the world continues to shift, even as challenges arise, remember this: you are held, you are guided, you are protected, and you are trusted. You are not starting over. You are stepping forward with all that has been formed in you. All that has been refined, all that has been revealed. You are moving from endurance into abundance, from waiting into receiving, from fear into trust. Now, as this message draws to a close, I want to remind you of something precious. Your journey matters. Your life matters. Your faithfulness matters. What you have lived through, what you have learned, what you have survived, it will ripple far beyond what you can see. And you will be able to carry it with grace because you are not alone. You are held, and you are loved more deeply than you can imagine. And finally, my beloved child, hear me clearly. Step forward into this new chapter without fear. Walk gently, speak honestly, love fully, rest when needed. Trust the guidance within, and receive every blessing that has been waiting for you. You have passed the final test, and now life is opening its doors wide before you. And as you move forward, remember this forever: you are enough. You are whole. You are ready. You are deeply, infinitely loved. Amen.